What's up, everybody? My name is Del. Today, we are joined by Cristina Mineo.
Hello.
And this is her husband, Andy Mineo.
That's right.
And this is a work in progress podcast. This is how we got Andy to finally put out a whole bunch of music that he was sitting on, that he had stored in hard drives, and for many reasons, didn't see the light of day. And today, we're talking about I Ain't Done, but an alternate version of I Ain't Done that actually you and Ty Shane produced, yeah?
Yeah.
Tell us about that record, man.
Ty Shane is, he goes by the name Beam. He's an incredible artist and a producer. I actually found Ty Shane when he was 16 years old. He left a comment on, I think, my Facebook or my MySpace or something like that, with a player, like a SoundClick player it was embedded, and so you could click through his tracks, which was really the only reason why I listened, because, you know, a lot of people, they want you to hear their stuff, but they send you like a link or you got to go somewhere or download something. So, you know, pro tip for anybody trying to get their stuff heard.
Make it easy.
Make it easy for the people that want to hear your stuff. Shout out the guy who brought me an iPad and put his project on the iPad and was like, here you go. And I could just press play. And then he's like, you can have the iPad. Very smart. I listened, for sure.
Wow.
Anyways, so he put that link up, and I listened through the tracks, and I was like, yo, this kid's really good. So I reached out to him, and he was like, oh my gosh, I love your music. I'd love to work with you. So he was on Formerly Known. He produced Young. He also produced...
That was your first project, right?
That was my first project, Formerly Known, in 2011.
He produced Young.
He produced Young, and that's why it's got this.
Yeah, that joint is hard.
We implement that same drop on I Ain't Done. I Ain't Done.
Wow.
That's a very Ty Shane.
It all comes full circle.
Yeah, it does. He did Young, he did Michael Jackson, and then on Heroes for Sale, he did a bunch of stuff. He did Where the Wild Things Are, a bunch of other stuff. He's been on basically every project. He produced Lost. I've been Lost. Anyways,
Tight.
Ty Shane is the man, incredible producer. And so I was working on this record, and, you know, I made the I Ain't Done beat when I was in a tour bus. I was on this tour, and I was going through one of the darkest seasons mentally that I've ever gone through. And this idea of I'm not done came up in my mind. Like that was just kind of like an inner monologue that I had. Like, as long as you're alive, you still have opportunity to change. And that kind of was like the thing that was like stirring up inside of me. And one of the things that even like made me think that was this movie I was watching. It was Founder. It was about McDonald's. And it talked about the guy who founded McDonald's. Ray Kroc. That he was like a 56-year-old milkshake maker salesman and went on to like franchise McDonald's and made like a huge difference in his life, but at like in his 50s. A lot of other guys, Erwin McManus, I had like listened to him speak at a conference I was at, and him talking about, you know, he really went through a whole bunch of things in his life all the way up until like age 43 or something like that, where he just didn't understand what his purpose was or what he was doing. And it reminded me like, yo, as long as you're alive, there's opportunity to change, or there's still opportunity to grow or find your purpose. When I think people get really anxious and paranoid about that in their 20s, you know, like, oh my gosh, I missed my boat. Or you're on Instagram watching 22, 23-year-old people having careers, and you're like, dang, I feel washed.
I think you were also reading Unbroken at the time. Remember the one that he was like stuck out at sea for like 40 days?
Oh yeah, that is
and
Unbroken.
And that really impacted you.
Unbroken was fire.
What is that?
Unbroken is a book about a guy who was in World War I, World War II. He was like actually a runner, and the plane went down. That he was a pilot. The plane went down into the ocean, and he was stranded on a flotation
device.
What device? Like it was like a raft for like 40 days without food, and him and two other guys.
They made a movie out of it.
They made a movie out of it, but the book is way iller.
What was the movie called? Do you know?
I think it was called Unbroken.
Yeah. And so, like, the way this dude survived was like catching sharks by hand, by the tail, and dragging them onto the boat,
What?
impaling them and eating their liver. Another way was that he would sit on the raft and a bird would land, like an albatross, on his head, and he would grab it by the legs and then break its legs and eat, like, kill it and eat it. That's how he had to survive. Ended up.
Why am I the only one tripping in here? Everyone's like,
it's crazy. Anyways.
that's wild. Who does that?
Yeah. But the will to survive was wild. So, anyways, I could talk more about that. Anyway, I was working on this record. I ain't done. And so that was where the chant came from. And then obviously I produced the record myself. I was on a tour bus, and I was really having this moment where I was very much concerned with what other people thought about my music, and in a way that I think was very unhealthy. You know me, when I got music, I want to play it. I want to play it for everybody.
Yeah.
The pizza guy stops by, and I want him, hey, come in real quick. Let me show you something. I show unfinished music to people all the time because I love to get feedback as I'm creating. But I think what started to happen was I was letting maybe too many people in, or maybe the wrong people in, and I was growing very discouraged about the music I was making. And there's a lot of dynamics to that.
Yeah.
Part of it is like me, like my standards get a lot higher for myself. Two is some people don't take it as serious as I do, so they're just like, oh yeah, it's tight or whatever. It would be like way more crushing to me than it should have been. Three, insecurity. Just like, yeah, insecurity will make you interpret information very differently.
And was that around the same time that you went gold for You Can't Stop Me?
I think it was right before. It was
Yeah.
right before I did. But it was in that time that I was concerning myself so much with what other people thought. I think I forgot the thing that had made me who I am today anyways, which was like, I did me. I did what I liked. And I came home, and this is why I wanted to add Cristina to this story is Cristina said one of the most...
Well, besides the fact that she's the CEO.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Always the CEO. You already know.
Okay.
Dinner plans, check with the CEO. Cristina was really integral in this song coming about and me finding my confidence again, because I remember coming home from tour. You remember on like a couple of the off days, and I was just confiding in you about my struggles. And Cristina took a sticky note and she wrote something on it, and she stuck it on the little screen in my studio. And on the note, it said, respect your opinion. And I just remember like being floored by that, because Cristina was like, why do you care so much about what other people think about your music? She's like, you are where you're at today because you made the music the way you wanted to make it and what you loved, and you didn't care what other people thought, and you're successful because of it. You need to stop respecting everyone else's opinion more than yours.
Right.
Respect your opinion because you're dope. And I was like, I am dope, right? And
well, I remember that there was, I can't remember if it was the beat or a lyric or something, but you were like making something. And I remember you were like, the Reach guys think this, and Dell thinks this, and somebody else thinks this. And I was like, okay, what do you think? He was like, I kind of like it, but I don't know, because everybody's saying all these things. And I think at that time you were like, I don't know if I'm washed. I don't know if I just can't think about these things anymore. Like, is this the end for me even? And I was like, what? Like, what do you think about it? He was like, I like it. I don't know, but other people don't like it. I was like, bro, but whose name is going to be on this record?
Word.
yeah. Yes.
Who
you marry matters a lot.
Sheesh.
Matters a lot.
That's
changes
wild,
the whole direction
man.
of your life. Ain't that right, BJ? Oh, brother.
That's wild.
So, she was just encouraging me in that time. And I was like, I got to respect my own opinion. So, anyways, the following weekend, I was out on the tour bus and I was making that song. And I didn't have any producers out on the road with me. It was just me. And that melody started coming to mind. Dun, dun, dun. So I just hummed it in, and I put distortion pedals on it, and I made it sound like that crazy guitar sound. And then I just used the drums that I had, this Illmind beat pack, and I made the drums, and I made the track, and I was just like on the bus losing it just by myself, like, ah! And I had the little USB microphone and I recorded it. And that's why the first lyric that came out was, oh, well, if they don't like it, I might turn up by myself. Like, it doesn't matter if anybody else likes this. I'm going to make this song
for you,
for me.
Yeah.
And that was what was most important. It was like a freeing thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't need opinion. No, I did this for myself is the second lyric. And then I said, I just remembered I'm dope. Yeah, I just remembered I'm fly. They trying to say be humble. Don't you know I'm made like God? And all those lyrics started pouring out of that conversation that I had with my wife and out of this like finding confidence again in being myself.
Yeah.
One of the biggest mistakes I think I made as an artist, like somewhere along the way, is like looking left and right. Like looking at the people around you or looking at what's happening around you and being like, if it's being successful, is being like, I need to be like that to be more successful. When really like the individuality, the uniqueness, the lane that you occupy is the thing that gives you value, not necessarily just conforming or being like everyone else.
Right.
And you can actually waste a lot of time and deter yourself from the actual purpose that you have by trying to catch up with what's going on around you. And, you know, I also just thinking that your music is for everybody. Like that was something that you and I talk about a lot. Is like sometimes we're like, yo, nah, man, my music is for everybody. Like, nah, there is no general audience. And it's like, no, there definitely is an audience and it's okay. Like there's very few people that make music that everybody likes. You know what I'm saying?
If at all.
If at all.
You can say there's people that happen to like get the vast
Transcend.
majority, but even them, like I always say, like you have people that are like, yo, Jay-Z's whack.
And they're bugging.
I feel you.
But
and people that are like the Beatles, yeah, I don't get it. And it's like, well, these people clearly do have the majority
of the opinion, right?
Of the majority of people do find them to be great and do connect with their music, but some people don't. Because if you try to make something for everybody, you end up making for nobody. You end up making it for nobody. Right. You know what I mean?
And so, sorry, this is like a really long-winded way around getting to it. But to Ty Shane was, yo, Ty Shane, I worked on this record. I don't know about my drums, you know, like, because I didn't consider myself at that time like a producer. Like I could just do the whole track, drums, vocals, everything. So I was like, Ty Shane, you got the best drums I've ever heard in my life. Would you come and put these drums on here and touch it? And so he came through, he did his thing to it. And I remember just being like, yo, this is crazy. And I remember showing it to like everybody. And I would just play the A version and the B version. And the A version was my version, the B version was Ty Shane's.
A for Andy, B for Beam.
B for Beam, that's it.
Makes sense.
And I remember we were sitting in the studio with, I think it was Mark Bird. We were in Atlanta, and then Chad from King's Kaleidoscope came. And I played it. And I was like, yo, which one y'all like better? I was like, because Ty Shane's is technically better. The sounds are better. The drums are hitting harder. Like, it's technically superior. And after listening, like, everyone in the room was like, yo, yours just feels better.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? Nah, dude, his drums are way iller than mine. And they were like, yo, from like a technical trap standpoint, yeah, but there's something about the grittiness and the crappiness of your drums that people were responding to better. And I was like, whoa. It was hard for me to like even agree with that. So it was a split, man. It was really difficult to choose because I just wanted to go with Ty Shane because I'm like, no, Ty Shane's ill. Let's just do that. But I remember we all went with my version. But I just remember just feeling like, yo, that Ty Shane version still needs to come out because it's crazy. He does some really interesting stuff with it that I didn't.
Yeah.
So that's why we're releasing it now, and you guys can check it out. He does some crazy drops in there.
Yeah.
Some distortions that I didn't do.
Man, you said so many things.
I know.
Like, it was so hard for me not to jump and 30 things. But
let's jump back in.
I'll say this. We just talked recently where I was telling you, I was like, listen, man, be yourself.
Yeah.
Like win and lose on those terms, because being yourself is really the only way that you can succeed. Like whenever you try to be someone else or something else, like you're gonna fail because it's not sustainable. And I don't think you're a person that I've ever looked at as someone that was trying to be something they're not. But what I hope to always encourage you in is to embrace your uniqueness, even though
it might not be the popular.
It might not be the popular thing. I mean, you know, you're from Syracuse. You have a certain experience growing up that like maybe I didn't have, that Justin didn't have, that Cristina didn't have.
Yeah.
But that's what makes you you. So yeah, I think this is just good advice for everyone. And Marcus and I were talking about this morning, or Ace, I don't know. But the best advice is, I was talking to Ace about it, and Ace is like a grown OG, like a dude that has like a lot of experience, very mature. And he says, yo, it's even hard for him to just embrace who he is and live out of that and create out of that as well.
Yeah.
I think everything from like what you want to wear, what you want to talk about, what sounds and genres you want to pull out of.
Yeah.
Like, do you, even if your most trusted inner circle, which is Chris, Justin, myself, be like, I don't really get it. It's okay. Like you're not making it for us to get it. And you're just making it for self-expression, and like the songs that people connect with the most are because they can relate as well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you're tapping into something that you guys share in common. That I also want to apologize, man, for any time, because I know that early on we had to have conversations about how to deliver feedback, because sometimes I'll be mad raw and be like, yo, I'm not feeling that. Like, oh no, I'm not feeling that, whatever. And
let me be clear too, that Del is one of the people in my like trusted inner circle of like, his opinion matters a lot. You know, because we release music together. You know what I'm saying?
He has good taste.
He has great taste. You know what I'm saying?
I try.
I try.
I said it for you. It's okay.
Yeah, I was hoping someone would, you know.
He's a really close friend as well. So that's also like, all of those things make the weight of someone's opinion matter a lot more. And so when you were giving me feedback early on, we had to learn how to give feedback in constructive ways.
Right.
Because some of it would be just crushing, or it'd be like, forget it then. I guess it's no good. You know?
Unintended too, you know? Like I was just like, it was crazy. When I first met you, I would see you do that. Like he'd be like, yo, everyone come check out what I just made and give me your thoughts. And I was like, is this guy nuts? Like I wasn't like that. Yeah. I wouldn't let my most inner, I didn't have the security. I wouldn't let my most inner circle hear it till I thought it was done. Yeah. Like I was just hearing it. I was just letting them hear it to be like, yeah, man, just finish this. Not like, hey man, it's in progress. What do you guys think? And I'd be like, yo, I don't know if what Andy does is good or not, but like it takes courage to do that. But I did kind of feel like, man, I feel like there's a lot of people that are yesing Andy, like because they just want to encourage you. Because it would be people from our church, and you know they want to like just be like really good Christians and be like, man, good job. Sometimes like I would feel, not everybody. There was like one or two people that I'm like, I don't know if you really think that. So I guess that made me want to be like, yo, I'm going to keep it a buck with Andy. Like no matter what, like when I like it, I'm going to let him know I like it. And when I don't, I'm going to let him know I don't. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that because of the subjectivity of art, it really isn't like a, yo, that's whack, as much as it's like, yo, that's not connecting with me.
Yeah.
Now, we can have a technical conversation like, yo, I feel like that snare, bro, is a little weak. I feel like the quality of that joint could be improved.
Yeah.
But to say that a song is like whack or it's bad, it's just like, nah, it doesn't connect with me. And not everything, you know, not everything that anybody makes connects with me. Like even my favorite artists, I have some songs that connect with me more than others. So I got to respect the subjectivity, but I also have to respect your vulnerability as an artist and like, and just not even sugarcoat it, but just like communicate it in a more constructive way. You know what I'm saying? And we had to learn that.
I also realized that I think I do really well with positive feedback to make decisions. Because the toughest thing about being an artist is you have to make a bunch of small, consistent, good decisions, right? So it's like, even as a painter, you're like, okay, I'm going to pick the canvas. I'm going to pick the size. Next thing I got to pick is the colors, the palettes, things I'm going to mix. Okay, my next decision is this. This was a good stroke. I'm going to add on that. You have to make a ton of micro decisions. And so along the way, get encouragement like, that's a good decision. That's a good decision. Helps me go. I remember when we made Coming In Hot, I showed up in the studio and I had a bunch of little ideas recorded, but we got that record done so quick because I got such affirmation from the rip. Yeah. So it was like, I put the beat on and I looked over at Lecrae and Lecrae was like, ooh.
And you're like, okay, let's go with that one.
I was like, okay, that's the beat, right? So now that conversation's gone. He liked it. And then it was like, I just mumbled, and then I said, I'm coming in hot. And the beat hit, and he was like, whoa! And I was like, okay, keeping that part. Right? So I was like, okay, I'm keeping that part. Now work backwards, keep the coming in hot part, and then fill in the other spaces. Yeah. So it was just like getting that immediate response helped me to be able to make decisions and go. I make music usually in my room by myself. And so I'm stuck with all those decisions to be made and me kicking it around in my head. And so now I'm realizing as a creative, like, yo, I actually probably need people around for certain parts.
Or keep like bobbleheads that are like affirming you the whole time.
That was also a new addition to the studio, like a gang of bobbleheads. But I think like, and what's crazy is like I'll listen to a beat, someone will send me a beat, and I'll be like, I don't know what I think about it. It's all right. And then I go to the tour bus and then I play it and everyone on the bus is like,
losing it.
And I'm like, all right, I should reconsider using this track.
Yeah.
And I've been wrong a lot. You know what I'm saying? So that's what always makes me second guess myself. Like, yo, I can't trust my opinion all the time because sometimes I can miss really good things.
Yeah, and it makes sense because you're in it as well. Like having an outside perspective from people you trust is a plus.
Absolutely. So, I think that adds to and then other guys go to the studio and they go and it's like a fun creative process with a bunch of people, and like they're all making decisions together. Their boys like, oh, I like that. And they put it together and they leave.
Yeah.
Me, it's a gift and a curse to be able to do everything myself. The gift is I don't got to wait on anybody. I'll get in there. I'll record myself. I can work whenever. The curse is that I can spend 4 hours debating something in my head and overthinking and re-recording, and someone walks in and be like, it was right the first time 3 hours ago. You wasted a day.
Which is usually what
happens.
One of the first versions of it.
So, I'm in that mode now where I'm still having to figure out what's the best creative process for myself right now because it's always changing. So
I just really wanted to straight up like apologize for any time that any feedback ended up being hurtful more than helpful, because obviously that's not the intention. We're all trying to we all should be fighting each other respectfully for the best end result. And like she said, Ben, she said it great, like whose name is going to be on this? Like I always say that, like, yo, you're going to win the biggest, you're going to lose the biggest, so you might as well just do what is true to you, after you take some input. But what was interesting is that I think I was one of the people that led you to feel this way about like, man, I need to respect my opinion. But then also when the debate was between the Tashane one and the Beam one, I mean, the your version and Beam's version, Tashane, I was like, your version, like all the way. You know what I'm saying? I remember that. And I remember the first time you played me the record, I lost it. I just thought it was freaking great. So it's funny that how like, that's just the way it is. You know what I'm saying? Like at one moment I might be like, I don't know about that. But then I'm the same person that could be like, no, that's great. What you did was great, and that's as long as everything is done constructively, that's great. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to say is Cristina, wow, like, I mean, respect your opinion, bro. Like, we need merch. We need that. We need that shirt. We need that shirt because I remember when he told me that, I was just like, because in your moments of like great insecurity, to be able to have somebody that can really listen to you, because you can only say something like that because you're really hearing them out. And you're detecting the problem here. Like, oh, the problem here is you don't respect what you think.
Yeah.
And you're putting like a disproportionate weight on everybody else's opinion.
Yeah. And I think it also helps
just
that
crazy.
I have no idea about music technically. So I didn't care, nor do I know. And I was like, I'm more concerned about Andy, and Andy's concerned about the music. So he'll ask me
Right.
about music, and then I tell him what I think, but I don't really know anything about music technically. I just know my husband and how he feels. And I also know a little bit about his psychology and how he thinks and how he values other people and his internal struggles and how that can translate into his work.
What does it look like from the outside?
Well, I mean, it's a lot. Like, the fact that your brand has gotten this big, when you were smaller as a brand, everything was more tight-knit, mostly on you and your decision. So it was easier to like pull triggers because there was less at stake. When things are bigger, there's more at stake. There's more people speaking in. There's more pressure. There's more to lose. So it's easier to think about, to weigh other people's opinions more than your own, because you almost feel insecure about how much is at stake. But your opinion was how things got where they were to begin with. So it's only smart to continue to rely on that. But it can also, like when it comes to anxiety and depression, like with I Ain't Done specifically, I know that sometimes you've struggled with getting outside approval.
Yeah.
And that has a lot of history and like family structure and things. But yeah, just feeling, and that, I mean, a lot of creatives have a lot of emotional stress.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of good things come out of. So I think that's one of the reasons why Andy's so great at a lot of things that he does. And I also think that's caused him to be very independent, which is great. Like he's sitting here with a green hat and orange pants and like a wrestling shirt on. And I don't know anybody else that would walk out like that, but that's exactly what I love about him, because he's like, what? This is it.
I need you to talk to my wife about my Scully that she gives me a hard time
Hates
about.
that Scully,
You need to
man.
tell her, look, man, okay, there's family structures in his past, and like he's
That's
being
causing him to wear
himself
this
right
hat.
now, okay?
We
He's
pull up
being
a picture
himself.
of the Dell Scully and just
my gosh.
screen grab it.
I have, certain things that, I just wear them a lot for seasons, and then I never wear them again. And
By the way, this
Scully.
MTA hat is fire.
Only NY, yo, we need that sponsorship.
Only. Cut the check.
But I need you to talk to my wife and be like, yo, he's being himself. Let him live.
Fall
On Sunday,
back.
we left the house and she's like, oh, that's Scully. And I was like,
Hysterical.
really? No, but she
confident.
she
She
just
loves
cracks
you
up.
just for who you are.
No,
though.
she cracks me up with that. We joke around with each other about that. I love my wife.
Well-
She loves me.
A couple things I wanted to play off on that was, one, did you notice, because Cristina was actually the person that suggested and like strongly suggested that I go to therapy. She was the closest person to me and was like, honey, I think it's time that you get therapy, like for real. And it was right around that same time. It was that same year. So the top of 2017, or was it the top of 2018?
No, I think it was 2017. I think you went through all of 2018 in therapy already.
Yeah. Christina was like, you need to go to therapy.
So paint this for me, like Saturday morning, you walk out of the house wearing Uggs, Teenage Mutant Ninja
Andy's
Turtle
never owned a pair of
pajamas,
Uggs in
and
his
she's
life.
like,
Therapy.
Andy, you need to go to, no, I'm kidding.
No. I mean, I wanted you to speak into that, because what were the things that you were noticing? Because I think you were noticing me stressing about music and overthinking things, and was just like, yo, you seriously need some help.
Well, going to therapy is not for the weak, even though I think people think you go to therapy when something's wrong with you. But I think no one survives childhood sane. Everybody needs therapy. And I think Andy has like an exceptional amount of pressure on him because of his business and the music and being in an industry where everybody has an opinion about you. So I think your emotional health is imperative to not only the kind of art that you create, but how you take that pressure. And if you can't take that pressure, then you're going to break and then you can't create anymore. So like his emotional health was essential for the longevity of this thing. And so it's like the stress under the pressure, the stress of what people thought, and I think the lack of confidence, but everybody experiences lack of confidence at some point. But it was the lack of confidence combined with the amount of pressure that I was like, I can't even help you with this. Like, you need to sit with somebody at an appointed time and do nothing but talk about your emotional health and your thoughts and the things that have hurt you in the past, because where this could take you is going to leave you way more vulnerable to more hurt. And before you even think about going there, you need to be able to heal from things that you have done to be strong enough to even handle things in the future. If not, this whole thing is going to crack.
Sheesh.
Who you marry matters.
Hey, no, seriously. That's what I was thinking. While I'm like, yo, we need to like really celebrate marriage, because there's been moments where I've been like so deflated, and my wife has been like my greatest source of encouragement.
Yo,
and
straight
like
up.
it's incredible, man. And this is just a beautiful thing.
Yes.
This is what people need to see. Like, this is what's beautiful about marriage. Like, you're not in it alone. And I remember when you said, because I have to bring something up, like, I think you were going through all this, dude, and you hit it really well. Like, no one ever thinks of Andy as being someone that's down.
Yeah. Well, I also think Andy's had to learn that to survive, because I think a lot of his life, he's been alone in a lot of ways. So he's had to put on a brave face to endure things without having too many opportunities to share and be vulnerable.
And process it.
Yeah. Because there's no time, there's no space to, you just got to keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I was on so much of the second leg of the Uncomfortable tour, which is kind of the time, it was around that time that these things were triggered. And I remember you telling that story when you guys were out to dinner and he just started crying.
I was home.
Oh, it was
I
home.
come home. She made breakfast for me, and I just was sitting at like the table eating, and I just started like crying. I didn't even know what was happening.
And she's like, wow, those eggs are that bad.
Yo, she made me breakfast. I was like,
I put salt in them this time.
yeah, I just started crying. I didn't understand what was happening. I was so like down. That was like the breakdown that I had around December 2016. And it was like, as I started, I was like Googling like what's it called? Like untriggered crying, like randomly crying. Like what would cause someone to do that? And
Besides Frank Ocean.
Besides Frank Ocean. I remember reading like your body can get so stressed out that it needs a form of release, and like it'll just cry if it needs a way out, and you haven't processed it or dealt with it. Like your body will literally keep the score and release. And so that's what was happening with me. I didn't understand. And I remember like me and Cristina had one of probably the most vulnerable moments we'd ever had, like that day. Like went to the bed and laid down, and like she just talked with me, and you could just see I was like out of it, right? You remember that? And Cristina was just like, I see you. I see like the hurt that you carry around. And she started like crying. You know what I'm saying? Just like, I can't remember what you said to me. I just remember you being there with me. But it was something like, you're worthy of like love. Something to that effect. Do you remember this?
I don't remember that conversation, but I do remember that feeling. Like, I don't remember exactly what was said, but I remember the exchange of feelings that was happening.
Yeah. I think I wrote it down somewhere. I probably like journaled it because it was pretty impactful.
Yeah. Well, I remember when you first shared that, I was like, huh? Because like have so many interactions, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
we're friends and we work together. And I was just like, geez, like, it made me be like, yo, am I like lacking awareness, or just does Andy just know how to? Because I'm a person that knows how to hide those things really well as well. Like, and I'm not someone that ever sits down and processes those things. That's why what you said, you know, I was just having dinner with a family member this weekend, and I was like, everyone needs therapy. Like, everyone needs to process. It's like emotional and mental, like it's like going to the gym for your mind and emotions. You know what I'm saying? Because so many things have happened to you, and there's so many things about you that you don't understand their origin, or even are aware of their existence, and or are not aware of their existence. So I'm like, you know, the fact that there could be any stigma around it, or the fact that everyone doesn't get therapy, is like, so y'all are just winging it out here? Like, what is it? Because
that's exactly what's happening.
You know what I'm saying? Because, or we're just like putting it off, but that's lying to ourselves, thinking it has no effect.
Right.
Yeah.
You know
it
what
still
I'm saying?
manifests in other ways that you don't even realize.
Right.
Well, it's crazy to think that you, like, okay, we all understand having a physical body, that it's growing and then it deteriorates. Like, we are all slowly dying, you know?
Cheers.
Like, we're heading towards death. Cheers. We're also heading towards death, and our bodies are breaking down. But that's why when people peep that, they're like, oh, I need to change what I put in. I need to change the food that I eat. I also need to exercise it.
Need to rock
by
some
doing
orange
things
pants.
like orange pants, running, going to the gym, you know what I'm saying? Physical exercise. So we know all those things about our external body, but our internal body, which is our emotion, you know, our spirit, our mind, those things just kind of get neglected. And we think like taking care of them by people who want to have spiritual practices or emotional healthiness practices like mental health, therapy and things like that. We think that's weird because you can't see it. And that's just crazy to me that we could so clearly see the need for physical health, but mental and emotional health just kind of gets sidelined, laughed at, you know, belittled. And, you know, a lot of people, the reasons they say to me is like, yo, well, I don't got the time and I don't got the money. And I'm like, bruh, if there's anything you're going to spend time and money on, it's investing in yourself.
Right.
And that's like, you can't even have the rest of your life. You can't even have yourself. Like, this is one thing I say to people that like want to have a relationship with another person, but they're not emotionally healthy. It's like, you don't have yourself. You don't have access to your own self. How are you going to give yourself to somebody else?
Yeah.
You know what
And
I'm
the thing
saying?
is
That's
that
like-
our society is like so obsessed with productivity and doing something. But if you don't take care of your emotional and mental health, you are not functioning at your full potential because things are not clear, and you might be more vulnerable to different triggers or hurts or ideas that could be worked out in therapy over a conversation or facing certain past hurts.
Yeah.
And without doing that, there's like huge holes that you're leaving open that just slow life down.
Yeah.
How's it been now that how long have you been going to therapy?
For a full year in January, it was a full year. And so now it's like a full year in a couple months. So it's been incredible though. I mean, it's like probably one of the single most helpful things that's ever happened to me. I feel like I've become a better husband, a better friend, a better business owner, a better artist because of all those things. I think I understand how I tick more than I ever have, and which allows me to have more like grace for myself when I'm messing up.
Oof.
Or more understanding.
Good.
More understanding for other people as well.
Yeah.
So when I see someone wild out and like bark at me, you know what I'm saying? Like in a conversation, my initial response is like, how dare you disrespect me? Let's throw the hands. You know what I'm saying? My secondary response, which has become more of my first response, is like, who hurt you? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's going on that would cause you to do this?
Yeah.
And I think I have a deeper level of understanding for that, or even compassion.
Yeah.
Because I know that behavior is just everyone's behavior is just the product of what's happening internally. You know, things happen internally or in your mind, and then they express themselves.
Yeah, and even like your spouse being your best friend, your confidant, your ride or die, there's just someone outside of that union that you can dump all these things on because who was it that said that like it shouldn't be like you shouldn't dump all that stuff on your spouse? Where did it?
Was that
did you
a
say
Tim
it?
Keller idea? I don't know. Tim Keller is very much about That
Killer
sounds like
Keller,
something.
that's my Killer Keller, respect. Been showering to his sermons for years. You heard? Yeah, I mean, and it makes a lot of sense. You know what I'm saying? There's some things that it's just like, whoa, because there's still like a level of like, oh man, I'm not prepared for this. You know, even as a spouse. You know, like to have that outside person, objective person that's just listening. Even, you know, in arguments, it's so hard not to get defensive.
Yeah.
When, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's you and you have your flaws too. And like, sometimes you might also, a tendency I have is to like give some, well, this is how you fix that. And it's like, no, just need you to listen.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
Well, you remember when I would get out of these therapy sessions and I would like call you or some other friends, like
Surrogate therapy?
We'd call it surrogate therapy because I'd be like so
hysterical.
charged up and I'd be like, man, this is what I'm learning. And then dude, like I'd end up having these like hour-long conversations with my friends and they would just be deep, rich conversations.
And
be
what
like,
I figured out is that I'm a bird that needs to flap its wings.
and then I just knew I'm a peacock. I gotta fly. Nah, there was like really rich conversations I remember having with like multiple friends and be like, yo, man, I'm thinking about going to therapy too. And it was just like, we had this joke. I'm surrogate therapy. Like I go to therapy for everyone else and I just come back and give them the info.
Andy actually got in trouble in the state of New York for practicing without a license for a week of sessions that he had over the phone. Nah, dude, it was great. I mean, I remember one time when you came back from I think it was a Reach like retreat for the artists, and the dude was talking about like your father, like your relationship with your dad, and then I was like, oh, me too. I remember saying that, but there's just like so many ripple effects benefits.
Yeah,
from
there is,
like
man.
just getting therapy is crazy.
I think I remember in that conversation, I might have quoted Brene Brown, which shout out to Brene Brown, because if you don't know who she is, you need to. It doesn't matter who you are. But she has a quote that says, and I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, you are imperfect, but you are worthy of love and belonging. And I think that's especially true for everybody, but especially artists. Especially musicians that put themselves out there to be criticized.
Yeah.
It's like you can be imperfect, but you're still worthy.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, you mentioned something too that you were like, Andy, you deal with a lot of like loneliness and like traumas from, you know, your past, but you bring those things into your artistry. One of the things I've noticed is that like most people who are really driven to do great things usually have some sort of trauma in their past that's like inspiring them or like motivating them to do things. Well, the people who have like pretty nice lives and don't have like immense trauma are like pretty chill with like the flow of life in a lot of ways. Like I find the people that are the most dedicated, like the most hardcore, it's like something happened. Which is a very interesting observation.
You're talking about the benefit of struggle, and then the joy that you can have in the midst of it all. You know what I mean? For sure.
Well, sometimes the getting to the motivations is really interesting. Like why I was so motivated to like make something out of myself through music, you know, and so dedicated. Where Cristina and I often beef about this, but I think we were watching a, you know, Chef's Table or something, and it was like one of these people who was running this incredible restaurants, like she was talking about, yo, I missed like 10 years of birthdays and Christmases and XYZ because I was just working. I was making sure I was going to make this shop great. And I remember Christina paused it and she was like, no, it's not worth it.
I was like, this is not okay.
This is not okay. And I just looked at it, I was like, I mean, part of it's just this, you know, you want to be great, you just got to.
Elon Musk said you need a minimum 80-hour work week to do something life-changing. I think I just saw an article.
You just got to go hard. And Christina's like, nope, not worth it. And I was like, how so? She's like, what do you say? You're never going to get these birthdays back. You're never going to see your nieces and nephews the same way. Like, you're going to miss those moments in life. And what I realized is what your priority system is going to affect that, you know, pretty heavily. Like, what you prioritize most in life. And for Christina, I realized it's family. Like, family is, that's for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, when you literally just said it, like, a lot of people who are successful tend to have a lot of trauma and hurt. And I would put money that most of that trauma comes from family. So for somebody to opt out of family, but that hole is like causing trauma for somebody. So there is, even if it was for the person themselves and they don't even realize it. And I'm like, is that trauma worth it? Like, you got this brand and you got this money, but what about this family? What about these other human beings that are like growing up without contact with a daughter or an aunt or whatever?
Yeah.
Man, I wish we would just segue right into family photo, but I digress. Man, I just want to say something, my brother. You're your best when you're being yourself, bro. And like,
Yeah.
as primarily like your friend, consider myself a brother to you, bro. That's what I prefer to see more than anything. It's just when you're being you, bro. When I get it, when I don't get it, like, I love the fact that we're hanging out at my crib and we're watching Wild Tales, a great Argentinian film, and I know what you're gonna laugh at, and you laugh at it because you're a sick puppy, and because it's you, like.
Yeah.
And I just love when you're yourself, my brother. And if there's anything I want to encourage you, we always say, don't try to make it better. Don't try to make it anything but honest. Just make it honest, bro. Like, anything you create, make it honest. Make it you, win or lose on your terms.
Yeah.
Be yourself, because that's what people connect to. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to keep encouraging you to create out of that place and to be yourself, for better or for worse, bro. But at least, you know, just be yourself and win or lose on those terms. You know what I'm saying? And
I think that's a good message for other creatives too, man. Like,
1,000%.
the temptation is always, and I've experienced this, I'm speaking from experience, it's like the temptation is always to do what works.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you look around you and you see what's working, and then people try to adopt what's working. And sometimes what's working isn't you, but you'll give away yourself to get whatever that is, success and I think that's kind of, in a lot of ways, it's a shortcut. You know, it's like trying to get a shortcut, like a easy win. But long term, you know, being yourself long term will attract the people that are supposed to be there. You know, I was saying this the other day, like, the type of music you make, the art that you make, is going to attract those type of people.
Yeah.
You know, so if you make like quick, fast, silly art, those are the type of fans you're going to get in a lot of ways. But if you make like deeply invested and true and honest art that you connect to, you'll be able to do it a lot longer. And those are the type of people you're going to get attracted. And I thought that was it was a really interesting point from that Whitney documentary that we watched.
great doc.
It was an incredible documentary. She said sometimes the artist, like the person who performs on stage, is supposed to come from an identity that you have as a person.
Yeah.
So it's like Andy the person and Andy the artist, and the artist is supposed to be an extension of the person. But oftentimes what can happen is the person can be an extension of the artist. The artist can become your primary identity. And I think that's the thing that I was wrestling with the most with this record, is like, who I was as an artist was becoming more so my identity than who I actually was. And so when your artistry is your main identity, you just need that thing to thrive and live. The crazy thing about being an artist, though, is you're a commodity. Like your art is a commodity. It has certain value in certain markets. It can sell certain tickets in certain markets. So your identity, your value can be caught up.
I mean, it's your name and face.
Literally.
Like,
Right.
Steve Jobs didn't run a company called Steve Jobs.
Right.
With his face as the logo.
Right.
You know what
So
I mean?
at
Like,
least there's some sort
there
of
was some
separation.
separation, yeah.
Like there's a product. If you don't like the Apple, the iPhone or whatever, it didn't mean you hate Steve Jobs.
when business is down, Apple is down. When streams are down, people are not rocking with Andy Mineo. Is what you are tempted to think. You know what I mean?
And that's what made that. I think that's what clouded that whole thing so much for me. And I still think it's a wrestle that I have. Like I need to, like what Cristina was saying, like family's important. Who you are as an individual. You said this earlier. You're like, I care about Andy. I'll speak into the art, but I care most about Andy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I was
that's
like,
great.
you separate those things where sometimes I just see them as the same thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The art is Andy. And I think that's a dangerous thing, but I think it's something, when you're aware of it, it helps to work through.
And I try to remind Andy all the time, mess with those that mess with you and wish everybody else well. That's it.
Yo,
Don't wish
talk
them harm. Just bye.
about it. Ain't nobody trying to sit in no quote unquote cool table, man.
Yeah.
We're cool on that.
Yeah.
But
She gave you the PG version, by the way.
no.
It's a
No,
little bit
but-
more X-rated, but
I want to say also, in addition to what I said earlier, that something really worth celebrating here is just like what y'all are displaying about marriage and how a team, like the team aspect of marriage, and how you're there to be each other's crutches, as Jigga says. I know you're feeling that. But nah, man, like I think that's a beautiful thing, and that's like such a beautiful picture for people to see. Marriage is hard work, but it's moments like these that you can really appreciate that type of union even exists.
Yeah.
You know? And Chris, just like, you know how Blanca and I think about you, like the strength you show, the maturity you show is on display in moments like this. And man, you're just, y'all are fortunate to have each other, man, because I think y'all make each other better. Because also you, man, just having that humble posture to go and start taking therapy and start seeking to get stronger and better, because you know that's what you need, that's what she needs, you know, that's what your fans need, your coworkers need, your friends need, you know? So I just think it's a beautiful thing. And it's funny, man, in the midst of all that struggle, I mean, you had to go through horrible things that we could sit here and like thank God for it.
Yeah.
Because of all the good that comes out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
amen.
Amen.
Shoot, might as well end on that. I don't want to ruin it.
Amen,
That was
amen.
a banger.
That's it.
We done.